ladies and gentlemen. So often when we think about courage, we imagine a fearless person, someone who charges into the unknown without hesitation, without doubt, without fear. But that's not what courage is. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to move forward in spite of it. It's the ability to act even when your heart is racing, when your mind is filled with doubts, and when every part of you is telling you to stop, to retreat, to stay in the safety of the known. Fear is natural. It's human. It's not something that goes away simply because we want it to. In fact, the more we grow, the more we stretch beyond our comfort zones, the more fear may show up to try to hold us back. But here's the truth I want you to understand. Fear is not a sign that you shouldn't take action. It's often the sign that you're on the verge of something important. Think about it. Every time you start something new, whether it's launching a project, following a dream, or even stepping into a new chapter of your life, fear will show up. It will tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't begin, why you're not ready, why you'll fail, why it's safer to stay where you are. And that's when you have to ask yourself, am I going to let fear control me, or will I choose to move forward anyway? The truth is, waiting for fear to disappear before you take action is like waiting for the storm to pass before setting sail. The storm might never pass, or it might pass, but it will come again. But those who set sail in spite of the storm learn something profound. The storm doesn't have to stop you. The key is to keep moving, to take that first step. Even if your knees are shaking, I know it feels uncomfortable. It feels risky. And that's okay. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from the moments when we feel most afraid, when we decide that our dreams are worth the discomfort, worth the fear. Courage is choosing to step forward, knowing that you might not have all the answers, but trusting that the journey will unfold as you move ahead. So don't wait for the fear to go away. Don't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect confidence level. Fear will always be a part of the process, but it doesn't have to be the thing that stops you from starting. The courage to begin is the willingness to start even when the path feels uncertain and the fear feels overwhelming. Because here's what happens when you do. With each step, fear loses a little of its grip on you. It doesn't control you the way it did when you first started. The more you move forward, the more you realize that fear doesn't have to define your journey. You begin to see that the act of starting is not just an act of courage, it's an act of faith. Faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith in the possibility that even if things don't go perfectly, you'll figure it out as you go along. And that, my friends, is what true courage is. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to begin in spite of it. And in doing so, you'll discover that there is so much more within you than you ever imagined. The fear never fully disappears, but you learn how to move with it, how to push past it, and how to keep walking forward toward your dreams. We live in a world that celebrates the end result, the finished product, the shiny trophy, the big victory. We look at the final destination and think that's what success looks like. That's what I want. And then often we get overwhelmed by how far away that destination seems. We think, how can I possibly achieve something so big? How do I even begin to make a dent in something that feels so enormous? But here's the truth. Big dreams are not built in a single moment. They are built one small step at a time. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every story of success began with a single action. And that action may have seemed insignificant at the time. In fact, the first step you take might feel so small, so unremarkable that you may wonder if it even matters. But it does. It matters more than you can imagine. Think about the journey of planting a tree. You don't start by expecting it to be a mighty oak. You start with a seed, a tiny, fragile seed that on its own doesn't look like much. But when you plant that seed and nurture it day by day, watering it, protecting it from the elements, giving it sunlight, it starts to grow slowly. Over time, and eventually that tiny seed becomes a tree so strong, so tall, that it's hard to believe it all started with just that one small action. The same is true for your dreams. At the beginning, the steps may feel insignificant. It might feel like you're not making much progress or that the distance between you and your dream is just too great. But every small step you take is part of the foundation. Each decision, each action is like watering that seed. Slowly but surely, you're moving closer to the person you need to be in order to achieve what you've always imagined. And remember this, small steps don't have to be perfect steps. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know every detail of the journey ahead. You just need to take that first step, then the next one, then the next. And with every step, you learn, you grow, and you build momentum. The reason we often fail to start is because we look at our dreams and we think they are too big, too far away, too impossible. But here's the key. It's not the size of the dream that matters, it's the size of the commitment to take that first step. You don't need to see the entire path. You don't need to know where every twist and turn will take you. All you need to do is start where you are with what you have and trust that the journey will unfold as it's meant to. Take a moment to think about the people you admire, the ones who have achieved extraordinary things. Do you know what they all have in common? They didn't start out knowing how it would all work out. They started with one small step and then another and then another. They took action even when they weren't sure where it would lead. They didn't wait for the stars to align. They didn't wait for all the conditions to be perfect. They just started. And you can too. Big dreams don't come true overnight, but they do come true step by step. Whether you're writing a book, building a business, pursuing a new career, or improving yourself, it all begins with small, consistent actions. Each step may seem small in the grand scheme of things, but those steps accumulate, and over time they lead to extraordinary results. What's most important is this: no step is too small to matter. No effort, no matter how tiny it seems, is wasted. Every step you take is progress, and every step gets you closer to your dream. So don't wait for a giant leap. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just take that first step. And when that feels right, take the next one. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize how far you've come, not just in distance, but in the person you've become in the process. You know, it's no secret that the first step, the very first action you take toward a new goal, can feel like the hardest thing in the world. It's easy to get paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of what lies ahead. We often think, how am I ever going to get there? It's too far. But here's the thing. The first step is always the hardest, not because it's the most difficult in terms of effort, but because it requires something deeper. It requires courage. Courage to take that leap of faith. Courage to make the decision to begin even when you don't have all the answers. And courage to trust yourself enough to take that first step, even if you feel like you're walking into the unknown. We spend so much time thinking about how far we have to go, and in doing so, we forget that the journey begins the moment you decide to move forward, no matter how small or uncertain that first step might seem. The truth is, the path ahead often feels unclear when we first begin. The fog of uncertainty is thick, and it's easy to get distracted by all the what-ifs and doubts that cloud our minds. When you take that first step, you are not only moving physically, but you are also opening yourself up to new possibilities. You are signaling to the universe, to your own mind, that you are committed, that you are serious, and that you are willing to try, even when the path is unclear. You are saying, I might not know exactly where this journey will take me, but I'm going to start anyway. That act of starting, of stepping into the unknown, is what creates the momentum to keep going. Once you take the first step, you realize that it wasn't as impossible as you thought. The fear that held you back starts to lose its grip, and the weight of the task ahead begins to feel more manageable. You see that the journey is not as daunting when you break it down into smaller parts. And before long, the distance between where you started and where you want to be doesn't feel so insurmountable. But let me be clear. It's not about waiting for everything to feel perfect. It's about deciding that you're willing to start. Even if the conditions aren't ideal, even if you're scared, even if you're not sure what will happen next. And in doing that, you take control. You take ownership of your journey instead of letting fear, doubt, or uncertainty dictate when or how you begin. Think about anything in life that you've achieved, any goal that you've reached, whether big or small. I guarantee you it all started with the decision to take that first step. That one moment when you chose to move forward in spite of the fear, in spite of the uncertainty, in spite of the what ifs. In fact, sometimes it's the fear itself that becomes a sign you're on the right path. Because if something feels really big or intimidating, it might just be a signal that you're reaching beyond your comfort zone, that you're growing, and that you're about to embark on something truly transformative. So if you're standing at the edge, looking at your dream or your goal and feeling paralyzed by how far you still have to go, remember this. The first step doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be taken. And once you've taken it, everything else becomes possible. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't need to know exactly how the journey will unfold. You don't even need to know all the steps ahead. All you need to do is begin. And when you do, you'll realize that the hardest part is behind you, and the rest of the journey becomes a process of learning, growing, and adjusting as you go. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're unsure of where to start or how to begin, take a deep breath and simply ask yourself, what's one thing I can do today that will move me closer to my goal? And then just do that one thing. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be a giant leap. It just needs to be a step. Because the first step, no matter how small, is the key that unlocks everything else. One of the most powerful truths about pursuing a big dream or goal is this: small steps build momentum. When you're starting out, it can often feel like you're barely making a dent, like your efforts are too small to matter, like you're not moving fast enough. You see, each small step you take is like placing a single brick in the foundation of something bigger. And while one brick might seem insignificant on its own, the more you add, the stronger the foundation becomes. Over time, those little steps compound, and before you know it, you've built something solid, something real, something that can stand the test of time. The magic of small steps is that they don't just move you forward, they build momentum. Have you ever noticed how, once you've taken a few actions toward your goal, things start to feel a little easier? Maybe you find yourself thinking more clearly. Maybe you start to feel a sense of confidence that you didn't have before. Maybe. Without realizing it, your energy starts to shift and your actions start to pick up speed. That's the power of momentum. It's the force that carries you forward even on days when you don't feel like it. And it all starts with those small, seemingly insignificant actions. What's incredible is that momentum doesn't require you to be perfect. It doesn't require giant leaps or immediate results. It just requires that you keep moving. Even if it's only a little bit at a time, each small step, whether it's writing a paragraph, making a phone call, learning something new, or taking a few minutes to reflect on your progress adds up. What starts as a trickle soon becomes a steady flow. You may not see it in the moment, but over time, you'll begin to notice that things are shifting. You'll look back and realize that the consistent small actions you took are what made the difference. Think about the times in your life when you've experienced growth, whether in your personal life, your career, or your passions. I'm sure you didn't wake up one day and suddenly become an expert. It's likely that you grew little by little, each day adding a bit more to your knowledge, your experience, and your confidence. It's the same with any big dream. Every small action, no matter how insignificant it may feel in the moment, is like adding another layer to your success. And as those small steps start to build momentum, something else happens. You begin to trust yourself more. Confidence isn't built in a moment of sudden success. It's built in the quiet, consistent actions you take when no one is watching. It's in the decision to keep moving forward, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. As you take more steps, your understanding of what's possible deepens. The fear and doubt that once paralyzed you start to lose their hold. The idea of the dream no longer feels so distant or impossible. Instead, it starts to feel more attainable because you can see the path ahead, step by step. Each small action you take brings you closer to your goal. And with every step, your sense of possibility grows. And here's the best part: momentum creates more momentum. When you start to see that progress is happening, whether it's learning a new skill, finishing a project, or hitting a small milestone, it fuels you to take the next step. It creates a cycle of growth, where one success, no matter how small, propels you to the next. You begin to build a rhythm, a flow, that makes the journey easier to navigate. The most successful people, the ones who achieve extraordinary things, didn't do it by taking one giant leap. They did it by taking consistent small steps. They committed to the process, and over time, those steps compounded into something much bigger than they could have imagined. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, remember, just take the next small step. No matter how insignificant it seems, it matters. Every action, no matter how small, is a building block for something greater. And when you keep showing up day after day, you'll start to see the momentum building. It will start to feel like you're gaining speed, like the wind is at your back. And before you know it, you'll be looking back and marveling at how far you've come. Because small steps don't just lead to progress, they lead to transformation. And that transformation over time becomes something powerful, something unstoppable. Too often, when we set our sights on a big dream or goal, we become laser focused on the end result. We think, once I reach that point, everything will be perfect. Once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I achieve this, I'll have everything I've ever wanted. And while the destination is important, it's that vision of where we want to go that propels us forward. What we often forget is that the real transformation happens not at the finish line, but along the journey itself. The truth is, the process of pursuing your dream is just as valuable, if not more so, than the destination you're working toward. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the goal, but what truly shapes us, what makes us who we are meant to become, is how we change and grow with each step we take along the way. Every challenge you face, every setback you encounter, every moment of doubt or uncertainty is an opportunity for growth. You will learn things about yourself that you never knew existed. You will discover strengths you never thought you had. And yes, you will probably experience moments when you question whether it's all worth it. But here's the thing: those moments of struggle are where the most profound transformation occurs. You are not the same person at the beginning of the journey as you will be at the end. You are constantly evolving, constantly shifting, constantly growing. And that growth, that evolution, is what prepares you for the success you're aiming for. Without the lessons learned along the way, without the challenges faced and overcome, the success would feel empty. It would lack the depth, the substance, and the sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing that you've earned it, that you've become the person capable of achieving that dream. Think about a seed that grows into a tree. The seed doesn't just magically turn into a towering oak overnight. It takes time. It goes through seasons of growth, of stretching toward the sun, of pushing through the soil, and yes, sometimes enduring harsh weather. But each moment of growth, no matter how small or difficult, contributes to the tree's strength. The tree doesn't just grow in size, it grows in resilience, in character, in ability to withstand whatever comes its way. It's the same with you and your dreams. Every time you face a challenge and keep going, you're building your own inner resilience. Every step you take, even when it feels like you're stumbling or moving slowly, is a step toward becoming a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of yourself. You are being prepared for something bigger than the goal itself. But this process of transformation requires patience. It requires trust that the journey is just as important as the destination, and that every experience along the way is contributing to who you are becoming. Too often we think the destination is the only thing that matters, but the truth is, the person you become in the process of chasing your dream is the real prize. There's also something incredibly powerful in realizing that your growth will inspire others. As you evolve, as you overcome obstacles and continue pushing forward, you set an example for those around you. You show them what's possible, not by preaching or giving advice, but by living it. Your own transformation becomes a beacon of hope, a reminder that they too can face their challenges and come out stronger on the other side. And let's not forget that there's no such thing as a perfect journey. You will encounter failures, setbacks, and disappointments. But each of these is a stepping stone. Each failure isn't the end, it's simply a part of the process that helps you learn, adapt, and grow. You're not just building a dream, you're building a foundation for your character. The most successful, fulfilled people aren't the ones who never failed, they are the ones who embraced the failures as part of their journey, who learned from them, and who kept moving forward with determination and resilience. So while it's essential to keep your eyes on the goal, I encourage you to embrace the journey itself. Don't rush through the process. Don't wish away the hard parts. Every step, every challenge, every victory, no matter how small, is part of the transformation that's happening within you. You may not always recognize it in the moment, but when you look back, you'll see how far you've come, not just in terms of the goals you've achieved, but in terms of who you've become. Your dream isn't just a destination, it's a process of becoming. And along that journey, you will discover that the most beautiful part of the dream isn't the accomplishment, it's the person you've grown into in the pursuit of it. How many of us have been paralyzed by the thought of needing everything to be perfect before we can even begin? We wait for the right time, the right conditions, the perfect plan, believing that if we just get everything in order, everything will fall into place. But here's the hard truth: perfection can be the biggest barrier to action. Waiting for everything to align just right before taking that first step often means you'll never take it at all. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself stuck in the cycle of planning, organizing, or strategizing, but never actually doing anything? You tell yourself, I just need one more piece of information. I need to have a clearer vision of what it's going to look like, and so the plan becomes endless. The more you try to make it perfect, the more it becomes an excuse to delay taking action. And before you know it, months or even years have passed, and you're still waiting for the perfect moment to begin. Here's the secret: starting is the most important thing you can do, even when you don't have all the answers, even when the plan feels incomplete, even when uncertainty is staring you in the face. In fact, starting with uncertainty is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's proof that you trust yourself enough to move forward, even when you don't have it all figured out. Think about some of the most successful people, the ones who have made a massive impact in the world. They didn't have a perfect plan when they started. They didn't wait for everything to be flawless. What they did was simple. They took that first step, then the next, and then the next. And as they moved forward, they learned. They adapted. They adapted. They adjusted. But they did not let the pursuit of perfection stop them from taking action. When you wait for everything to be perfect, you're essentially waiting for a guarantee. You're waiting for all the stars to align before you do anything. But the truth is, no matter how much planning you do, there will always be things you can't predict. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be unknowns. And there will always be unexpected challenges along the way. That's life. And that's okay. You see, when you wait for everything to be perfect, you're also missing out on the invaluable learning and growth that happens during the process. Perfection isn't found in the planning, it's found in the doing. It's found in the trial and error. It's found in the lessons learned through taking action, adjusting, and improving along the way. Perfection doesn't come before you start, it comes because you start. It's like learning to ride a bike. Do you wait until you're absolutely sure you won't fall before you start? Of course not. You get on the bike, you pedal, and you might fall a few times, but each time you get up, you learn something new. Each time you adjust your balance, you get better. And soon, without even realizing it, you're riding smoothly. Perfection wasn't the point, the journey was. When you start, even with uncertainty, you gain momentum. You see what works and what doesn't. And you adapt. You get clearer about what you want and how to get there. Perfection is not something that comes from thinking and planning. It comes from doing, from experimenting, from trial and error. The act of starting, of taking that first step, unlocks the path forward. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't plan or that you shouldn't have goals. Planning is important, it helps give you direction. But what I am saying is this: don't let perfectionism keep you stuck in the planning stage forever. Don't let it be an excuse to delay the dream that's inside of you. Remember, the journey begins with a single step. even if that step feels imperfect or uncertain. And in fact, it's often those small, imperfect steps that lead you to the breakthroughs, the clarity, and the growth that you need. So if you're sitting there waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect time to start, know this: there will never be a perfect moment. The perfect moment is when you decide to take action, right where you are, with what you have, and trusting that things will unfold as you go. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to start. Starting imperfectly is infinitely better than not starting at all. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to believe that your dreams are not too big for you. It's so easy to look at a goal or a vision, whether it's starting a business, writing a book, traveling the world, or creating something innovative, and think, that's for someone else. That's for people who are more talented, more experienced, more capable than I am. We often put our dreams on a pedestal, believing they are too far out of reach, too much to achieve, too big for someone like us to ever accomplish. But here's the truth: no dream is beyond your reach. Your dreams are not too big for you. What makes them feel out of reach is often the distance we imagine between where we are now and where we want to be. We see the end result, the finished product, the person we want to become, and we think we have to get there all at once. We look at the summit and feel overwhelmed by the climb. But the reality is, achieving your dream is not about reaching some unattainable peak overnight. It's about taking one step at a time, day after day, no matter how small those steps may feel. The truth is, you are capable of far more than you know. You have everything inside of you to achieve what you desire. The ability to reach your dreams is not a matter of being born with some special talent or receiving some lucky break. The key to achieving any dream lies in consistent, focused actions that don't need to be grand or perfect, but that over time compound into something extraordinary. It's the small, everyday actions that lead to the biggest transformations. Think about it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. A huge, daunting task becomes manageable when you break it down into smaller, achievable steps. Every time you take a step, whether it's making a phone call, reading a page, practicing a skill, or making a decision, you are moving closer to your goal. You don't need to see the entire path or have all the answers. You simply need to keep moving forward, one step at a time. It's not the size of the dream that determines success, it's the consistency of your actions. And that's where most people get stuck. We focus so much on the enormity of the dream that we forget that success is built through daily actions. The person who climbs the mountain is not the one who sees the top and turns back because it seems too far away. No. The person who climbs the mountain is the one who starts at the bottom, takes one step, then another, until they've reached the summit, not because they were more gifted or more capable than anyone else, but because they kept moving forward when others gave up. And let's be real, sometimes the journey toward your dream will feel slow. It will feel like you're not making much progress. You may encounter setbacks or feel like your efforts are too small to make a difference. But every small action counts. Every time you put in the work, every time you show up, you are making progress, even if you can't see it yet. When you take consistent action, something incredible happens. You start to gain momentum. What began as a small, seemingly insignificant step becomes a chain reaction. Each action you take reinforces your belief in yourself, your ability to succeed. As you see even small progress, you become more confident. You start to realize that maybe, just maybe, this big dream is not as far out of reach as you once thought. And here's the beautiful part: the distance between where you are now and where you want to be doesn't matter as much as you think. What matters is your willingness to take action right where you are, with what you have, and trust that every step you take will get you closer. Every effort, no matter how small, brings you closer to your dream. The journey is just as important as the destination, and the more you embrace the process, the more capable you will feel. So if you've ever doubted yourself or wondered whether your dreams are too big, I want you to know this: your dreams are meant for you. They are not a coincidence. They are not out of your reach. What's needed is not some grand, unattainable level of talent or circumstance. What's needed is simply your willingness to show up day after day and take those small, consistent steps toward your goal. You may not see the results immediately, but trust me, each small action compounds over time into something much bigger than you ever expected. You have what it takes. Your dream is within reach. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or for things to fall into place. You just need to start. And then keep going, keep stepping forward. No dream is too big when you break it down into the small, steady actions that create momentum. One of the biggest misconceptions we have about starting something new, whether it's a business, a creative project, a new habit, or pursuing a big dream, is that we need to feel ready before we begin. We wait for the perfect moment when all the stars align, when we have all the knowledge, the resources, the confidence, or the experience we think we need to succeed. We tell ourselves, I'll start when I feel more prepared. But here's the truth, there's never a perfect moment to begin. If you wait for everything to feel just right, if you wait for the perfect set of circumstances to fall into place, you might be waiting forever. The perfect moment simply doesn't exist because life is messy, unpredictable, and constantly changing. Waiting for the right time to start can be one of the biggest traps we fall into. We get stuck in the cycle of preparation, thinking that we need more time, more information, more reassurance before we can move forward. But the reality is, the more you wait, the more you delay your progress. You don't need to feel ready to start. The truth is, readiness is not something that comes before action, it comes from action. It's the process of stepping forward, even when you feel uncertain, that creates the growth and clarity you're waiting for. When you take that first step, even without feeling fully prepared, you'll find that you learn, adapt, and grow along the way, not before you start, but through the doing. Think about it, how many times in life have you started something new and found that once you began, things started to fall into place? The first time you did something unfamiliar, it probably felt awkward, uncertain, and even a little uncomfortable. But as you kept going, as you kept learning from the process, you gained confidence, understanding, and experience. That's how readiness works. It's not something you're given, it's something you build as you move forward. In fact, you might discover that you learn more by doing than by waiting. You gain insights, ideas, and perspectives you could never have anticipated from just planning or thinking. The real magic happens when you take that leap of faith into the unknown. It's only by taking action that you start seeing results, and it's in those results that you refine your approach, build your skills, and gain the experience you were waiting for in the first place. Now, I know it can be scary to step into the unknown, to begin something without feeling fully ready. There's always a fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of making mistakes. But here's the thing, you're not supposed to have it all figured out from the start. Life doesn't work that way. Perfection doesn't come from having the perfect plan, it comes from taking imperfect action and learning as you go. Think about a baby learning to walk. The baby doesn't wait until they're 100% sure they can walk without falling. No, they take a step, then they fall. Then they take another and they fall again. But with every fall, they learn something new. They adjust their balance, they find their footing, and eventually they're walking with ease. The baby doesn't wait for the perfect moment, they act, even when they don't know the outcome, because they trust that each attempt brings them closer to where they want to go. It's the same for you. If you're waiting for the perfect time to begin, you're missing out on the chance to start growing, learning, and evolving right now. There's no such thing as a perfect set of circumstances, but there is always a present moment, a moment where you are right now. And that's the only moment you need to begin. You have everything you need to take that first step, even if it's just one small step. Start with what you have, where you are, and with the knowledge you have right now. You'll gather more knowledge as you go. You'll gain more confidence as you take action. And you'll be much further ahead than if you kept waiting for some mythical perfect moment. Remember, progress isn't made by waiting for the perfect moment to appear. It's made by showing up, even when the moment feels imperfect. The world is full of people who never started, who waited for everything to be just right. And the thing is, the world doesn't wait. Your dreams don't wait. You can start right now. Don't wait for the feeling of being ready to strike. You don't need to feel ready to begin. You just need to begin. One of the most powerful things you can do as you chase your own dreams is to realize that your actions have the power to inspire others. When you take a step, no matter how small, toward your goals, you are not just moving closer to your own dreams. You are also showing the world that it's possible for anyone to begin their journey too. Your willingness to take that first step, even in the face of uncertainty, has a ripple effect that can inspire others to do the same. Think about the times in your life when you've been inspired by someone else. Maybe it was a friend who dared to start a new project, a colleague who took a risk, or a family member who decided to follow a long-held dream. It wasn't necessarily the big, flashy moments that inspired you. It was their courage to take action, even when they didn't have everything figured out. It was the small steps they took that showed you it was possible, even when the path seemed unclear. And the truth is, you have that same power. Every time you move forward, no matter how small the progress seems, you're sending a message: if I can do this, so can you. You may not even realize it, but when you show up, when you act in spite of fear or doubt, when you take that first step, no matter how imperfect, it gives others permission to do the same. You are leading by example. It's important to understand that you don't have to be perfect or have it all figured out. You don't have to be at the end of your journey to inspire others. You just need to be in the process, taking that first step and continuing to move forward. Often, it's not the end result that motivates people, it's seeing the courage to begin. People need to see that it's okay to start with uncertainty, to take a step without knowing exactly where the road will lead. That's how you empower others to take action. When you act, even in small ways, you become a living example that dreams aren't just for special people, they're for anyone who's willing to take a step toward them. Your small steps can spark someone else's courage to take their own first step. And when others see you moving forward, they realize they don't have to wait for a perfect moment either. They start to believe that maybe, just maybe, they can take their own leap of faith. The truth is, sometimes people just need to see that it's possible that someone else just like them has the strength to take action, even when the future is uncertain. Your journey, no matter how imperfect, is a testament to what's possible when you simply decide to begin. You don't need to have all the answers, and you don't need to be perfect in your pursuit. You just need to keep going. And by doing that, you become a living example of what it looks like to take action and believe in yourself. Think about how many people in history and in your own life have been inspired by others who dared to take that first step. Sometimes it's a simple gesture that ignites something within another person, a single action, a single choice. Your decision to begin, to put one foot in front of the other, could be the spark that encourages someone else to step into their own potential. Your small steps are never truly small, they are monumental. Because every step you take is a seed that you're planting in the hearts and minds of those around you. Those seeds can grow into actions, dreams, and changes in others that you may never even witness directly. But know this: your courage to move forward becomes a blueprint for someone else's courage to take action. You are more powerful than you realize. Your journey is not just about your own growth, it's about inspiring the people around you to believe in their own potential. You are paving the way for others to walk confidently toward their own dreams, showing them that no step is too small, no action too insignificant, and no dream too far out of reach. So take that step today, keep going. Even when it feels like the progress is slow or the road is uncertain, know that your small steps are leaving footprints for others to follow. You are creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond yourself. Your courage is contagious. And the more you act, the more others will be inspired to act as well. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we need to make huge, bold moves in order to create change. We think we need to make drastic decisions or take enormous leaps to see progress or transformation. But here's a profound truth: one small step can change everything. It's not always the grand gestures or the monumental breakthroughs that lead to the most powerful shifts in our lives. It's the smallest, often seemingly insignificant actions that set off a chain reaction of change. Consider this: you might be standing at the edge of a cliff, looking at your dream or your goal as something far off in the distance, feeling overwhelmed by the vastness of the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. It's easy to think that the journey is too great, the challenge too big. But all it takes is one step, just one small, simple action, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the time, to begin the journey towards something profound. That one small step could be sending an email, signing up for a class, making a phone call, taking a walk towards your goal. It might not seem like much in the moment, but it sets things in motion. It breaks the inertia. It disrupts the status quo. And over time, that small action starts to compound. One small decision leads to another, and then another, and before you know it, you've created a momentum that is hard to stop. What seemed like an insurmountable mountain can become a series of small hills that you can climb one by one. It's important to remember that change rarely happens all at once. Most transformation, whether it's in your personal life, your career, or your relationships, is the result of consistent, incremental steps. Those tiny moments of action build on each other, layering together in ways that are often invisible in the beginning. But with time, those small actions can lead to something much bigger than you ever imagined. Take a moment to reflect. Some of the most important milestones in your life probably began with a seemingly small choice. Maybe it was the first time you decided to apply for a job, to talk to someone new, or to show up for yourself in a way you hadn't before. At the time, those actions might not have felt monumental, but they changed the course of your life in ways that you can't fully predict. One step, no matter how small, can lead to profound change. Don't underestimate the power of beginning. You may not see the entire path laid out in front of you, and that's okay. The important part is taking that first step, trusting that once you start moving, the path will reveal itself. Too many people hesitate to take the first step because they're waiting for the right moment, the perfect plan, or the absolute certainty that they're doing the right thing. But here's the truth: certainty comes through action, not through waiting. When you take that first step, you are sending a signal to the universe, to yourself, and to everyone around you that you are committed to your journey, and from that commitment, a chain reaction begins. You'll start to gain clarity. You'll begin to see the next step more clearly. You'll attract opportunities you didn't expect. People will come into your life to support your journey, and your confidence will grow because you'll have proven to yourself that you can begin and that you can keep going. Think about the snowball effect. A small snowball rolling down a hill starts small, but it picks up momentum as it gathers more snow along the way. At first, it's just a tiny ball, but by the time it reaches the bottom, it's massive. That's the power of small steps. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they accumulate and lead to massive change. The truth is, most of us underestimate how much one small action can really do. It's easy to dismiss the small steps as insignificant. We think that unless we're making huge, bold moves, we aren't really progressing. But the reality is that the smallest step is the beginning of something much bigger. The first word written in a blank notebook. The first piece of advice you give to someone. The first time you tell yourself, I can do this. That's where change begins. And you never know where it might lead. One of the greatest things you can do for yourself and for the world is to trust in the power of starting small. You don't need to have the entire roadmap, the entire vision, or the entire plan in place before you take that first step. You just need to start. Trust that the next step will become clear as you go. Trust that even the tiniest action can have a ripple effect, creating change that will resonate far beyond what you can see in the moment. So whatever dream you're sitting on, whatever goal feels too big, whatever change you want to create in your life, remember this: your first step doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be taken. That small action, that little decision, that first movement forward, it could very well be the one that sets everything else in motion. It could change everything.